And you have to wonder at 2-5. And I'm going to go there.
Sounds like it.
How far do they go before we start wondering whether or not Pete Carroll's going to get nudged out the door? Is it this year? Is it next year? They're on. Look, it's very easy to stay in a place indefinitely, and he's been in Seattle since 2010. And, oh, by the way, they've been good far more often than they've been bad, especially since Russell Wilson arrived.
Definitely.
And you know what? Let's listen to Pete Carroll last night. I got some thoughts on something Pete Carroll said about Russell Wilson.
Cool.
Let's hear Pete Carroll after the game about the importance, as he is learning without Russell Wilson, of Russell Wilson.
I've been here a long time, and if we didn't have Russell, I probably wouldn't have been here a long time. Because think of all the magic that he's created in the years. He's got numbers and stats in fourth quarter, this is and that's and all that stuff. One of the winningest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. And it'll be really fun when he comes back and plays football again for us this year. And we owe a tremendous amount. You can see how hard it is. All of these games, the Rams game, the what was the next one? The Steelers in this one. Russell's a factor. He's a fantastic positive factor and always has been. And those are exactly his time. That's his time. And that's when he shines. So we miss him. And in the meantime, we're going to keep fighting and clawing and doing everything we can.
I know it's a little too early to make this reference, but is this kind of like Scrooge waking up after being visited by the ghost of Christmas future and seeing what life would be like without Russell Wilson, right? And understanding you ain't going to last very long, Pete, in Seattle if you don't have Russ. So you better find a way to make him happy, whether it's financially, which they do whenever the contracts come due, although I think the next one is going to require a financial commitment they may not want to make, but maybe they do. Maybe now Pete realizes, we can't be grumbling about paying this guy $50 million a year. He's worth every penny. And also the idea of giving Russell what he wants offensively, having the help around him. The question is, has Ebenezer had his epiphany too late? Because it may not matter at this point. Because there's been shots of Russell on the sideline. There was one last week. Rich Eisen pointed this out on Twitter after he heard the play call in his earpiece. Yeah. He rolled his eyes.
Right.
You just have to wonder if this experience, on one hand, is making Pete Carroll realize how badly he wants Russell, and on the other hand, it's making Russell realize how badly I got to get the hell out of here. I got to restart my career somewhere if I want to win more Super Bowls.
Well, it certainly doesn't look like the offense that we heard him, send all his cryptic language, and I think what he was telling people behind the scenes, Super Bowl week, the week after the Super Bowl when he was on Dan Patrick, all those conversations, right? From anybody that I've talked to that knows anything about the situation, and you know this too because you've heard the same type of stuff, he wants it to be about him, and he wants a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen type offense where it's free-flowing and we're going to put pressure on you and I'm going to be able to throw strikes and lasers and I'll make some plays when those guys aren't open. And, Seattle shows no signs of going down that road. None. Even before his injury, it was no signs of that at all. So that's got to be frustrating to him. It is. And, hey, Pete Carroll's a phenomenal coach. Of course he has. He's won a lot of great games. Hall of Famer, for sure. But, Russell's important. Unless you have the Legion of Boom and the most dominating offensive line with Marshawn Lynch in football, then he's not as important. Okay, I get it. But that was like a special era with a special group of men that is not going to be replicated anytime soon. It was a defense that we've talked about a lot where it basically just said, we play this defense, we're better than you, screw off, you're not going to do anything today. And then they went, and an offense, we're going to run it right here with Marshawn Lynch, and there's nothing you can do, screw off, we're better than you. That day's done, and now it is too reliant on Russell magic. It's the last few years, that's all it is, and I think that's why they also fizzle out in the playoffs, because it's just there's not enough to offer there from the team, the defense or the offense, and Russell just can't do it all when it comes playoff time against the Rams, who are the number one defense in football and coached and know all the tricks of the Seahawks and what they do on offense, and then they got more talent. Yes, it makes Russell look bad, and I'm sure he doesn't like that aspect of it at all.
Yeah, I'm looking at his contract now. If they would trade him, they wouldn't take any extra cap hit beyond what they're already taking this year, but next year it would be $26 million in dead money for having Russell Wilson gone. But look, I don't think they will trade him. I'm just saying behind the scenes, it won't surprise me if Mark Rodgers doesn't make some calls this week just to see if there's any way they could throw something together between now and next Tuesday, because why wait until after the season if this season is already lost? Because if a guy's talking about being legendary and iconic and building his legacy, you just had a team in town that would put you in a much better position to get to where you want to be. They're 4-2.
Yeah, 4-2.
Right. Now that the buys are
the buys are they're uneven.
Irritating.
I know. Right.
They're 4-2.
Right.
And you know, not that he would be able to play this weekend anyway, but he'd be there for the rematch with Tom Brady in whatever week they get together again, the Saints and the Buccaneers. But much better chance of making the playoffs as a wild card, even if they can't get past the Buccaneers. And I can't help but think that Sean Payton would be thinking, man, how much better would our offense be with Russell Wilson? And I can't help but think Russell Wilson thinking, how much better off I'd be on a team like the Saints.
Yeah.
And you can't look. I know there's going to be people saying, "Oh, come on, this is all ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It's never going to happen." I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it's naive to believe that the thoughts aren't happening, because we already know what the thoughts are, because the thoughts became words and actions,
real words, right,
before the season. And they're 2-5.
Right.
They stink this year.
Yeah.
So it's going to exacerbate the problem. He can say in training camp, "I'm all in," and he can still say, "I'm all in." But he's smart enough and experienced enough to know that if I'm going to want out after the season, why not see if there's a way to get out now? Why wouldn't you? I wouldn't blame him for it.
I mean, I'm not going to blame him for anything. No, I don't think it's in his character to quite do it yet. You know, I don't think I don't think Seattle, just knowing that.
You wouldn't have thought it was in his character to go public with it this offseason, though. You wouldn't have thought that to go public with it.
Well, he's had a few moments of cryptic language before, but that was definitely a little bit more than normal. You're right about that. I'm not going to push back too hard there, but I'll go to this. I think this would be my main point about that conversation, because you're right. I wouldn't be shocked if thoughts like that aren't going through his head right now. No doubt about it. You know, I think he's probably just right now still going, wait, I just hope we can stay in this race and maybe we can get in at, 8-9. Or 9-8 and something like that. And I think that's what he, in his heart of hearts. But I think ultimately what it comes back to in the conversation is a little bit like what we talked about with Deshaun Watson, right? That Seattle's not going to want anything to go down right now. They're going to want, if they're going to trade Russell Wilson or do any of that, they want after the year with as many bidders at the table as possible so they can maximize. Just for the exact reasons I think we hear Miami and Carolina involved with Deshaun Watson right now, because they don't want to get to that point in the offseason where they're going, oh, damn, there's 7 other teams involved in this now. We're going to have to throw an extra first-round pick in for Deshaun Watson as compared to what we had to do in late October. And I think that's what Seattle wants. If they're going to trade Russell Wilson, they're not going to do it right now to just, oh, this team needs him. They're going to want a bidding war so they can maximize and totally rehaul their football team.
There's one interesting twist potentially left in all of this. On Sunday, the Seahawks welcome to town Jacksonville and Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence. And if somehow the Seahawks would lose to the Jaguars.
Oh, my gosh.
Coming off their bye, and who knows, maybe Urban, didn't take a couple of days off during the extended break and took full advantage of the opportunity to get his team ready to go play the Seahawks. That will be fine. But Urban Meyer actually has been very, very reliant on Pete Carroll. He's hired Pete Carroll assistants.
Yeah, we see that,
and
right?
Schottenheimer and Bevel talks to Pete Carroll. I'm told, on a regular basis. Talks to him far more than he talks to Bill Belichick, who is supposedly, his good friend before coming to the NFL. But maybe they got a little inside information on how Pete Carroll's going to run the offense, and maybe they understand without Russell Wilson they're vulnerable. If they would lose that game to the Jaguars, and there's still 48 hours left or thereabouts in the trade window. You just wonder what kind of accelerated effort there would be by Russell Wilson. I mean, if you fall to 2-6 with a loss to the Jaguars, isn't that the get me the hell out of here moment?
It certainly is like, whoa, it would be the moment where you're going, wait, things are going south here in a hurry. And I think it would be the moment where you look at it and just go, where are we going? Like, what is the team? What is it? What? I don't know. I think that's the question with Seattle right now, just going forward. Like, what's the vision of the team? I really don't know where it's going to go. The offensive line is a patchwork. Dwayne Brown's, getting up there in age. You got the two receivers and Russell Wilson. Chris Carson's a good player, but as we know, hey, he's a running back and he's a car crash running back, and we're starting to see that catch up to him just a little bit here the last 2 years. And then on the defense, no real marquee defensive lineman. Hey, I know they got Bobby Wagner, but it's coming to the end for him. Jordan Brooks a good player. Corners, they got nothing really. Nothing. And they got two good safeties. So it's just like I don't know where or how fastly they can rebuild it and get them back under the level of a team like the Rams or the Cardinals. I don't know. Again, and last year I know they were 12-4. I get it, and they're not that far off, and people can push back with that. But even then, it was a weird 12-4, and it was still a lot of Russell Wilson magic making things happen. And when the NFL caught up a little bit to, let Russ cook, and this is what they're doing, we talked about it a lot, right, last year. That's why you're nodding your head. I mean, it just stopped right there. It just wasn't creative enough. There wasn't enough going forward. So it is definitely interesting, and we'll see where it all goes. But I hear your points, and I think there is something to it at some point here. I just think it'll be after the year.
And they were one and done in the playoffs.
Yeah, not even close.
Losing
not
at
even
home to the
competitive in
Rams.
that game, right?
And they haven't been to the NFC Championship since 2014, the year that they made it back to the Super Bowl and lost on the Malcolm Butler play. They haven't been back to the NFC Championship since then. And it's weird to think because they're competitive every year.
Yeah.
Even the year they didn't make the playoffs, they were 9-7.
Right.
But there's got to be a lot of thoughts going on in Russell Wilson's head as he watches this thing disintegrate. And we had the schedule up after the bye. Oh, you get to play the Packers and the Cardinals in back-to-back weeks. Have fun with that, given where the Packers and the Cardinals currently are, combined record of 13-1, and they play each other this week. So one of them has a loss coming up, or maybe both have a tie.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.